A soldier stepped on a landmine but didn't even realize it. The guy behind him freaked out. Instinctively, he wanted to rush over to help, but the moment his foot touched the ground, there was a snap. Lucky for him, he stepped on a landmine too. The man was shaking like crazy, frozen in place, too scared to move, worried he'd set off another mine and lose his life. But then he suddenly heard a painful scream nearby. He suddenly realized in horror that his teammates' lower legs had both been blown off, lying there barely alive in a pool of blood. It was a really dire situation. While trying to comfort his teammate, the man forced himself to stay calm, but the injuries were just too severe and his legs kept bleeding nonstop. At this rate, in less than 20 minutes, his teammate would bleed out and die. To save him, the man decided to lift and jump over the 6 landmines he'd stepped on and help bandage the wounds and stop the bleeding. Hearing this, his teammate immediately pulled out a gun and told him not to come closer. He didn't want the man to suffer the same fate as him. After being refused, the teammate pointed the gun at his own head. Seeing his brothers in arms die right before his eyes, the man was utterly devastated. He broke down and screamed, but luckily his strong will to survive forced him to calm down. His teammate's death was now a fact. He had to make it back alive for his fallen comrade. But this was a deserted desert, and he was stepping on a landmine. Surviving was easier said than done. The man took a deep breath. He spread his arms to keep his balance, then slowly bent his right knee down until he was half kneeling on the ground. Next, the man pulled out a small knife and tried stabbing it sideways into the landmine at his feet, back and forth, to see if it could be disarmed. But as soon as the knife went in halfway, it got stuck. The man sighed in disappointment. He'd have to think of another way. He untied his shoelaces, tied on a military-grade hatchet, and ran forward and hooked his teammate's backpack, pulling it back. Inside was a satellite phone. Excited, he grabbed it and quickly called headquarters for help, explaining everything that had happened to him and his partner. But the other person told him that this desert was way too remote, and the rescue team wouldn't get there for at least 52 hours. Hearing that, the man totally broke down. Not only did he have no food or water, but this was also enemy territory, where he could get shot at any moment. They told him to stay still and hold out here for 2 whole days and nights. That was impossible. Before the man could even catch his breath, a huge sandstorm started heading straight for him. He froze, quickly tied a cloth over his mouth, strapped on his backpack to add weight, shoved his sniper rifle and knife into the sand, and crouched low, too scared to move. After who knows how long, the sandstorm finally passed, and the man, relying on... He was dizzy and lightheaded from the scorching sun, but the rescue team wouldn't arrive for another 43 hours. He had already drunk his last drop of water. In the desert, where the temperature hit 45 degrees, without water, he simply couldn't survive. He shouted for help, but this was the desert. No one answered. The man was completely hopeless, with no will left to live. He raised his gun to his head, ready to pull the trigger, when suddenly he remembered the gear waiting for him back home and the teammates who had told him to keep fighting before they died. After struggling for a bit, the man finally put down his gun. Night fell quickly. He lit a campfire since the temperature in the desert dropped sharply. Exhausted from being baked under the sun all day, he thought he could finally rest, but then he heard wolves howling nearby. To survive, he tried scaring them off with his gun, but he ran out of bullets fast. The wolf pack launched an attack, sinking their teeth into his legs. Just as he was about to fight back, another bit his hand. Then the rest of the wolves swarmed him, each grabbing a limb and tearing at him. Even though he was covered in blood, he didn't dare move an inch. He knew exactly how dangerous the ground beneath him was. In the end, the entire wolf pack was wiped out, but the man miraculously survived thanks to his incredible willpower. Just as he was about to catch his breath, he realized something even worse. His leg, where he stepped on a landmine, felt numb. He used a small knife to cut open the skin on his shoe that had been baked by the sun. Even worse, the long exposure to the sun was causing him to hallucinate. He started talking to himself, swinging his fists in the air, and even saw his dead comrades come back to life.